Hello and welcome to this session. This is Professor Farhat, in which we will keep working with Sarbanes-Oxley, specifically Title IV. In the prior sessions, we looked at what is Sarbanes-Oxley, how does it affect the auditors, how does it affect the company. In this session, we'll keep working on how does it affect the reporting aspect of the company, specifically when it comes to disclosure. Title IV enhances financial disclosure. What does it mean, enhancing? It means it's improving the financial disclosure, the transparency, the completeness of the financial reporting. The key idea is companies must provide as much details as possible so the users can make informed decision. Now, why is this topic, financial disclosure, is important under Sarbanes-Oxley? Remember when I started this series of recording about Sarbanes-Oxley, I said one of the reasons is the collapse of, you guessed it, Enron and WorldCom. So in this session, because it's pretty dry, I'm going to be giving you a lot of examples from the real world, but I'm going to focus on Enron. When Enron collapsed, they were hiding billions of dollars in debt through their off-balance sheet partnership with SPEs, special purpose entities. We'll talk about those shortly in this session, directly leading to this Title IV disclosure requirement. So when you disclose, you cannot mislead. When you disclose, you have to be clear, plain English, so the people understand what you are discussing. This is what we will discuss in this session. Let's go ahead and get started. Before we proceed any further, I have a public announcement about my company, FarhatLectures.com. Most students and CPA candidates struggle not because audit is too hard, but because it's taught fast and the logic behind the procedure isn't explained clearly, and everything feels disconnected. At Farhat Lectures, we break audit down step by step. We explain the why behind the standards, the logic behind the assertions, risks, procedures, evidence, so the whole process finally clicks. When the concepts connect, audit becomes clear and manageable. You stop memorizing and start understanding. Ready for auditing to make sense? Start your free trial at farhatlectures.com. So the first thing, the disclosure must be in the annual as well as the periodic reporting, which is quarterly reporting. So public companies must include enhanced disclosure in their financial report. Part of the disclosure should include that the financial statements are fairly presented within the notes. Reports must also reflect all correcting adjustment identified by the auditor, any material change in the financial condition, and everything must be disclosed in plain English. The reason we mentioned plain English, because what Enron did, they did disclose what they needed to disclose, but it was not in plain English. So when people read it, it was confusing purposefully, so you don't understand, but as far as they know, they check the box for that disclosure requirement. To be specific about disclosure, we need to discuss off-balance sheet financing. Off-balance sheet financing is when you have some sort of a loan, some sort of a lease, and you don't show it on the balance sheet. Remember, the balance sheet lists your assets, your debt, or your, let's call it debt since we are using off-balance sheet debt, your debt, and your equity. And remember, assets should equal debt plus equity. Imagine if you can have that and don't let it appear here, let it disappear from here. This is what off-balance sheet financing is. Actually, we talk about this later on, and when we talk about the special purpose entity, specifically how did they do it. But if you have any off-balance sheet finances, you must disclose the nature and the purpose of the arrangement. You must quantify the maximum potential exposure to loss. You cannot somehow report it but hide it. You must disclose its effect on liquidity in case you need to pay it off, on capital resources, and on the results of operation. Do you have any operating lease, contingent liabilities, relationship with any unconsolidated entities? And this is basically what Enron worked on. They had relationship with entities, but they were not consolidating those entities. 2001, Enron had over $1 billion in many special purpose entities, basically in consolidated entities that were not consolidated and consolidated. They were not consolidated. You remember when you take your advanced accounting course, we talk about consolidation, keeping their liabilities off the balance sheet.
Pro forma financial reporting. What's a pro forma? Pro forma, think of it, what if. You prepare the financial statements based on what if. This is a non-GAAP figures. So it's a non-GAAP measure that you use to present your financial statement. You must explain your non-GAAP information. Why is it useful? Why are you using non-GAAP? And when you use non-GAAP, you cannot exclude reoccurring charges to inflate earning. So if they are reoccurring, you have to show them. Basically, non-GAAP is to show, for example, one thing you want to take out because it's not reoccurring or it's a special item. That's why you would use this method. So often companies use the adjusted EBITDA, earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, or adjusted EPS. So when you do present your financial statement in a pro forma situation, they must not be misleading. They must include all the material. And they must reconcile with GAAP numbers as well. So after you present it, you have to show this is what we think the situation is, and this is what it looks like if we follow GAAP. So you have to show both. For example, in 1999-2000, Trump Hotels and Casino issued misleading pro forma earnings that excluded one-time charges, making losses appear to be profitable before we had SOC. So with SOC, those are not allowed anymore. So it's strengthening those pro forma financial information. Tesla did it for a few years to show that they are growing, assuming that they can, reduce their cost of goods sold and bring battery cost under control. So it's allowed, it's useful, but you have to show why it is useful. Let's circle back to special purpose entities, SPEs. Remember, we just mentioned them. So if there's any involvement with SPEs, you must disclose it. SPEs are simply legal entities created for a specific business purpose. Now what Enron did, for example, this is Enron and what you did, and we have a whole lesson about SPEs. They created those small companies called SPEs, and they never consolidated them. So they will borrow money, hide this money here, transfer the money in form of revenue to Enron, and I talk about this in my SPE recording, then show it as revenue rather than debt, thus hiding the debt. So what are some common legitimate uses for SPEs? Leasing, project financing, securitization. What does that mean? It means when you create those SPEs, sometimes you might have a specific reason for them. For example, you want to lease an item and keep that leasing arrangement in that specific company. That's fine, but you have to consolidate. Or project financing. You're financing a project specifically, you just keep its financing separately, or you would remove some asset and you securitize them. You want to sell them separately, you put them in that company. If that's the case, you must disclose the nature, the amount involved, and any potential obligation for these SPEs. So the SOC requires transparency even for off-balance sheet SPEs. Back to Enron, because that's what they're known for. They created many SPEs, some of them named Chuko and Jedi from Star Wars, managed by their CFO, Andrew Fastow, to hide 600 plus million in losses. So what they did is they created those SPEs, they checked all the boxes, everything looks good, everything looks legitimate. So they were able, again, I don't want to go into how they did it. If you want to watch my SPE lecture, that's fine, which is you have to know it for the CPA exam, what's a special purpose entity. But the point is, if you do have those SPEs, and obviously the rules have changed since then, that's the purpose of SOC, is to change the rules. Conflict of interest, that's a no-no under SOC. Companies are prohibited from giving personal loans to executives, CEO, CFO. Exceptions, that's fine. Loans that are pre-existing, they did not say you have to you pay it off. Offered under normal lending terms, if that's the case, if they're charging you the same interest rate as if you go to the bank, no favorable treatment, no favorable terms, that's fine, as long as it's available to all employees. But Section 402 prohibit the loans to directors and executive officers, and violation can result in criminal penalties. Now, pre-Sarbanes-Oxley, loans must be repaid or modified, cannot be renewed or materially modified. If you have a loan, that's fine, but this is for executives. It must be repaid or modified. Otherwise, you cannot renew it. Exception will be for home improvement mortgage loan if part of a normal business and offered to public as well. Now, the reason we're bringing this because we want to talk about Adelphia. Dorigas family executives borrowed $3.1 billion in undisclosed personal loans from the company, leading to fraud conviction. So you cannot use your company, although it's your company, it's like you're an owner in it. It's the family company in a sense that it started with the family, now it's publicly traded, to use it as your piggy bank. This is publicly traded. You're no longer, you're still a shareholder just like everybody else. You cannot abuse that and get a loan at the expense of the other people. Insider ownership disclosure. What does that mean? It means if you're an insider to the company, you must disclose this information. Executives and major shareholders must disclose ownership changes. So who are these people? People that own more than 10% of a class of stocks. Officers, CFO, VPs are usually considered as insiders because they know information. Directors and beneficial owners of more than 10% of any class, basically, more than 10% of stock. When they must report at initial ownership, there's a Form 3 within 10 days of becoming an insider. When ownership changes, you have a few more days. And at the annual summary, Form 5, there's like specific form, and you will disclose who are the insider owners. Insider owners could lead to insider trading, which is why do they want you to do that? Because once you are considered you have enough shares, you don't want to have the privilege also knowing information that you can trade based upon that information. So we have to know who's buying, who's selling, so everybody knows if a major individual buy or sell. We need to know as the public that this is a major event, we need to know about it. Therefore, we disclose their ownership and their changes in their ownership. Management assessment of internal control, section 404, that's a big one. In practice as well, it's heavily tested because we need to talk about internal control. And, we're going to have 4 or 5 or 6 lessons about internal control. But the reason we have those is because of SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley. It's the most heavily tested area, and the real world was the most pain for companies. So first, management responsibilities. Internal control is the management responsibilities. They must state that they are responsible for the internal control. They must state which framework they are using, typically COSO in the US. They must identify material weaknesses and significant deficiencies, and we'll talk about material weaknesses and significant deficiencies in 1 or 2 lessons by themselves. Evaluate the effectiveness of control annually. Include the results in the annual report or issue a separate report. So now what we do, we have more work to do when it comes to internal control as a company post-SOC. The auditor responsibility is to attest to the assessment, say whether the control, if there's any deficiencies or they're not aware of any control deficiencies. Evaluate the effectiveness, and we must issue a report about this. For example, in 2009, GE disclosed material weaknesses in internal control over revenue recognition, causing the stock to drop 8%. So Section 404 is important because if you have a problem with internal control, you might have problem with what? Problem with revenue recognition, problem with expense recognition. It means the management will have some room to do what? To commit fraud. And that's why Enron and WorldCom committed the fraud, because internal controls were not working properly. Now, everything that we talked about about COSO, does it apply to all companies? No, there are some exceptions. Certain companies can be exempt. Non-accelerated, we talked about them, that they have less than 75 million in float. It means in value of public stocks. They have exceptions from Section 404B. They don't have to have an auditor assessing their internal control. Emerging growth companies, they have temporary exemption. Again, it has to do with cost. Registered investment companies, there's a modified 404 requirement for them. Foreign private issuers, they have to follow their home country standard. So why this exemption? I'm going to tell you why. It's costly to comply with the internal control. Therefore, you're just telling them you don't have enough money, or you should not be spending that much money. We're going to give you a break. That's why. So it reduces compliance cost and balance investor protection with capital formation, because these companies are growing. You don't want them to spend money on internal control. And if they're small, they're not going to affect the market. Therefore, the government says you're not large enough to threaten the market. Therefore, we're not going to force you into having the same requirement as larger companies. Code of ethics for senior executives or senior officers. The company must disclose whether they have a code of ethics, and most companies will have. If they don't have, you must explain why. Okay. What's the code of ethics? It promotes ethical behavior, accurate financial reporting, compliance with laws and regulation. That's all you can do. You can try to encourage people, right? So code of ethics is part of that. Back to Tyco, back to 2002, Dennis Kozlowski looted $600 million through unauthorized bonuses and loans because the company had weak ethics code that wasn't enforced. So that's why code of ethics say, hold on, you can't do that. That's basically wrong. Just keep reminding management about that. Audit committee financial expert. So every audit committee must have a financial expert. And we talked about the audit committee in the prior session. We touched upon that. But let's go back a little bit more in depth, defining what's financial expert. Financial expert qualification would be what? Knowledge of GAAP, experience in preparing or auditing financial statement, understanding of internal control, familiarity with the audit committee function. Hold on a second. Who do you think would qualify for these items? You guessed it. A veteran CPA. You don't have to be a CPA. They should have a CPA, but you don't have it to be a CPA. You can have all this experience without being a CPA. But it's better if you're a CPA because you're certified. Also, Sarbanes required SEC review of financial report. They review the filing. They pay special attention if there's any restatement. Any company with unusual stock price volatility, large companies with significant market impact, because again, the larger you are, the riskier you are for the whole market. Companies with any irregular financial ratios. And for example, when Elon Musk, used to tweet, well, now X, when he used to use Twitter to just state certain information about the company, the SEC started to review to see if those review the financial report to see if that information comply with what he's saying, if it's in the financial report or not. Let's take a look at a summary of what we talked about in this session, because this is basically a rule-based session. SOC enhanced disclosure to improve transparency of balance sheet items must be disclosed. Pro-forma must reconcile to GAAP. Personal loans are generally prohibited. Section 404 requires management and auditor involvement in internal control. Companies must disclose ethical policies. An audit committee should include a financial expert, let's just say a CPA. And SEC actively review high-risk companies. Those are few things you need to know about SOC as it applies to corporations. Let's take a look at this multiple choice question from farhatlectures.com. A company provides personal loan to its CEO under terms not available to other employees. What is the result? So can we do that? Can we do that as long as we disclose? And the answer is no. Even disclosure does not allow you to do that. How about if it's permitted by the board? If the board says we okay it, because the board represent the shareholders, the holder of the company. Sorry, we can't do that. Prohibited under SOC. Absolutely. This is one of prohibited items under SOC. And remember in the lecture I talked about Kozlowski. Where's Kozlowski here? No, this is the Adelphia guys. Kozlowski from Tyco, what they did is they borrowed money from the company. And that's not allowed. Remember, Dennis Kozlowski looted $600 million through unauthorized loans. So it's not allowed these days where you can basically lend yourself money. So it's prohibited under SOC. Permitted if immaterial, it doesn't matter. Once something is prohibited under SOC, materiality does not play a role. If you are completing this on Farhat Lectures, you could use our AI to explain the topic if you're not familiar with what's prohibited, what's not, explain correct and incorrect answer, and create a similar MCQ about what's prohibited under SOC. should you do now? Go to Farhat Lectures. The best investment you can make is invest in yourself. Study hard. Don't shortchange yourself. Use our resources, lectures, AI, simulations to help you prepare for the CPA exam. And God bless.